Continuing with chapter 2. She read it through to where it said, I will be taking the dogs, and Tao too, of course, then looked for the remainder. That's odd, she thought. Now where would he take them? That cat must have knocked the paperweight off last night. The rest of the note must be somewhere in the room. She searched the room, but it was not until she was emptying an ashtray into the fireplace that she noticed the charred curl of paper in the hearth. She bent down and picked it up carefully, for it was obviously very brittle. But even then, most of it crumbled away, and she was left with a fragment which bore the initials J.R.L. Now, isn't that the queerest thing? She said to the fireplace, rubbing vigorously at the black mark on the tile. He must mean he's taking them all to Heron Lake with him. But why would he suddenly do that after all the arrangements we made? He never said a word about it on the telephone. But wait a minute, I remember now. He was just going to say something about them when the line went dead. Perhaps he was just going to tell me. While Mrs. Oakes was amazed that Longridge would take the animals on his vacation, it did not occur to her to be astonished that a cat should go along too, for she was aware that the cat loved the car and always went with the dogs when Longridge drove them anywhere or took them farther afield for walks. Like many Siamese cats, he was as obedient and as trained to go on walks as most dogs, and would always return to a whistle. Mrs. Oakes swept and dusted and talked to the house, locked it, and returned home to her cottage. She would have been horrified to the depths of her kindly, well-ordered soul if she had known the truth. Far from sitting sedately in the back of a car traveling north with John Longridge, as she so fondly visualized, the animals were by now many miles away on a deserted country road that ran westward. They had kept a fairly steady pace for the first hour or so, falling into an order which was not to vary for many miles or days. The Labrador ran always by the left shoulder of the old dog, for the bull terrier was very nearly blind in the left eye, and they jogged along fairly steadily together. The bull terrier with his odd rolling sailor-like gait, and the Labrador in a slow lope. Some 10 yards behind came the cat, whose attention was frequently distracted when he would stop for a few minutes and then catch up again. But in between these halts, he ran swiftly and steadily, his long, slim body and tail low to the ground. When it was obvious that the old dog was flagging, the Labrador turned off the quiet graveled road and into the shade of a pine wood beside a clear, fast-running creek. The old dog drank deeply, standing up to his chest in the cold water. The cat picked his way delicately to the edge of an overhanging rock. Afterwards, they rested in the deep pine needles under the trees, the terrier panting heavily with his eyes half closed, and the cat busy with his external washing. They lay there for nearly an hour until the sun struck through the branches above them. The young dog rose and stretched, and then walked toward the road. The old dog rose too, stiff-legged, his head low. He walked toward the waiting Labrador, limping slightly and wagging his tail at the cat, who suddenly danced into a patch of sunlight, struck at a drifting leaf, then ran straight at the dogs, swerving at the last moment and as suddenly sitting down again. They trotted steadily on all that afternoon, mostly traveling on the grassy verge at the side of the quiet country road. And quiet country road, sometimes in the low, overgrown ditch that ran alongside, if the acute hearing of the young dog warned them of an approaching car.